All right, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining today. So, as Emily mentioned, we are here to talk about Bullhorn's standard reports and my dashboard cards. So, Bullhorn offers several pre built reports and dashboards to help you track and analyze your company's data. These reports and dashboards are designed to help you understand what's going on at an operational level using information directly from your Bullhorn database. Examples of this would include data on your hiring process, notes, and user activity. Before we jump into the dashboard cards, let's talk a little more about Bullhorn's standard reports. All right, so to access these reports, you'll first want to navigate to your Bullhorn menu, open the Tools folder, and click on Reporting. All right, that'll take you to our reporting landing page. So we can see here that these are the current standard reports that I have given access to. All right, we see our report names and descriptions. Now the descriptions are customizable, so you can tailor those based off of the information you need for your company. Looking up here at the top, you can also see any recent reports that have been run. And as an administrator, you have access to view and run these reports in Bullhorn. In addition, you can authorize users to run specific reports, likely based on their role or user type in your organization. Now we'll take a look at just a few of the many reports that Bullhorn has to offer. So I'd like to start by looking at the recruiting activity report. I'll just navigate to the report name and select Run next to the report. So you can use the recruiting activity report to track activity directly related to the hiring process. This would include hiring workflows such as pre-screens, interviews, hires for yourself, other users, or for an entire team. The data that appears on the report is determined by one or more of the filters on this page. So let's take a look at a couple of these filters. So as you can see here, we have our reporting period. So we could choose a start and end date. We can also choose from a pre-populated list, such as the current week, the current month, and even the current quarter. For this scenario, I'm just going to select the current month. You also have the option to filter the activity for just yourself. You can also choose a specific recruiter or other user or group of people. If you don't want to filter by the users, you can also filter by an entire department or a client. So just as an example, if I were to start typing, this would pull up my recruiters and I could select them. Same goes with the departments. For this example, we're just going to keep it open here so I can view all recruiting activity for the current month. Navigating towards the bottom here, we have a couple options for our report format, such as web page, which will present the information directly here from within Bullhorn. Or I have the option to export the information to an unformatted Excel sheet. When all my filters are set and I'm ready to generate the report, I will simply click Generate Report. All right, so now we're looking at all of our recruiting activity for the period that I've selected, which would be the current month. We can see here based off of these rows and columns that I have a lot of different data that is generated for this report, such as my pre-screens, my submissions, my offers, my hires, etc. Since I didn't choose to tailor this down to a specific recruiter or department, I'm showing all of my departments. Now, if I want to get into the nitty-gritty of this, I can simply click on the little arrow next to a department name to expand the information. So I see with Clayton here, we have several pre-screens and submissions, a lot of data that's going into that specific department. Now you see when I expanded that, that showed me all of the recruiters or the users that are tied to the Clayton department. So if we were to select somebody, let's say Alex, and I expand them, Scroll back up just a little bit here. I can see that Alex has had 1 pre-screen, 5 submissions, 1 client submission, etc. And then it breaks down the data nice and neatly for me to actually tell, okay, so who were the submissions done by Alex? What were the jobs, etc. Now, the great thing about the reports here is anytime I see any kind of blue font, that is alluding towards these being a hyperlink to open up another record within Bullhorn. So for example, if I wanted to see the candidate C. Miss Gray, I could click on that directly from the report and it'll open up my candidate record. And then if I just wanted to narrow that back down, I can click on that arrow once more. If I wanted to update the filter or the criteria that I included on this report, I can click back over to my criteria page and I can update this. As simple as that. So let's take a look at another report that we offer here. I'd like to look at the sales activity report. So once again, just navigate to the report name, click run next to it. And there we go. Now we're seeing our filters once more that we saw with the last report. So the sales activity report is great to track sales activity for yourself, other users, and your team. So once again, I'm just going to go through and select some of my report criteria. This time I'm going to choose to hide the graph that we saw on the last report. And now that I'm ready, I'm going to generate the report. And now we're looking at sales activity for the current month. Once again, broken down by these easy to read rows and columns. If I expand one of the particular departments, that will show me what I have as the salesperson in this sales activity report. And again, it gives me the information as far as the candidate, the job, the company, and the contact. All right, so going back here to our criteria page, we talked a little bit about the filters and the way that you can narrow down the criteria that is generated on the report. The filters marked with a red asterisk are required and typically populated by default. Now, your filter and column names may differ depending on your company's terminology. And that is just a brief overview of some of the standard reports that Bullhorn offers. So now let's go ahead and talk about our dashboard cards. To access the dashboard cards, you'll simply go back to your menu and select My Dashboard. So reports are highly beneficial for accessing and analyzing your Bullhorn data, as we just saw. But there may be times when you need to run multiple reports to generate the data that you're looking for. Dashboard cards simplifies that process for you by showing specific and condensed information all in one centralized place. Examples of this would include, let's say you are a manager and you want to see a card for each of your team members, a card that reflects specific criteria or data. Or maybe you want to add cards both for this year and last year, or for this month and last month to compare specific recruiting data or sales information. All that is available within the dashboard. You can see here I currently have several dashboard cards already set up, each of them showing me very specific data pertaining to certain entities within Bullhorn, whether that be jobs, leads, opportunities, or placements. There are a lot of configurations that can be done with each of the dashboard cards, but just looking at this screen, I also have the ability not only to view the card and information within it, I can expand. I can move the cards around as I see fit. And I can even remove cards very simply by clicking on our remove card option. All right, so let's jump into just a couple of the options for the dashboard cards that we have. So to add a card, I would simply click Add Card and choose from one of the various options that we have as far as the cards go for your dashboard. Now I'm going to select the Starts and Ends card. So this card will display starting and ending date information for placements and can be tailored to show placement data for yourself, your team, your department, much like we saw with our report criteria. You can also filter it by individual users, companies, or even employment types. So currently, what I'm looking at on this Starts and Ends cards are any placements that are starting in July of 2021. For the current week that is selected, it looks like I had 2 that started on Monday, 1 that started Tuesday. Of course, this is just a test database. So looking at yours, you're going to see a lot different numeric values within these fields. If I scroll down, I can actually see more information about the placements that are starting in this selected week that I have. So I see we have a placement ID, we have candidate and company information, as well as the owner and the status that those placements are in. As we learned from the reporting, anytime I see some blue font within a given report, that alludes towards it being a clickable link to open up another record. So if I wanted to view placement 2108, the senior accountant, I click on that link and it opens up the placement for me. Going back to my dashboard here, if I wanted to see all the placements that are starting the week of July 18th, I can select View All, and that will take me to my placement list. And as you may know, from a list entity such as your placements or your jobs, you have the option to manipulate multiple records all in one fell swoop. So I have the option from this point to either maybe update their status or export them to an Excel file if I would need that to get that information to another person. I'll just go ahead and close these back out and go back to my dashboard here. Let's talk a little bit about the configuration for this card. So most of these cards will have the ability to be configured by clicking on the configure card or the gear icon. So you may recognize a lot of these fields or filters as we saw with our reporting. Differences would be, I have the option to rename the card if I wanted to. So I could call the card whatever I wanted. I can filter by only my jobs, all jobs, or again by a specific department or user or group of users. I can even filter by a certain employment type or a placement status. And when I'm ready to make the changes, I simply hit apply and the card is updated. Another great thing about my dashboard is we see here, I have various cards with certain sets of data or information showing on them. But as it pertains to this particular card we're looking at, starts and ends, I'm looking at all the placements for the given month. Let's say I want to see this information, but I also want to see starts and ends information for a specific department at the same time. So to do that, I can simply add another card, go to starts and ends, and now we have 2 starts and ends cards. For the new one that I just added, we're going to select a certain department, such as Boston. And for this card, we're going to name it Starts and Ends Boston Department. I'm going to click Apply. And so there we go. So now anytime I go to my dashboard, I'm seeing placement information, starting and end dates as a whole for all jobs, and I'm also seeing it isolated for the Boston Department. Again, you can move these around as needed, and you could remove them as needed as well. Now, so we were just looking at the start dates at this time, but I can also choose the end dates as well. So start dates were in green, end dates were in red, making it very clear which placements are starting, which are ending, and both views have the same functionality as far as I can see which ones are starting or ending in a given week. I have access to viewing particular records associated with that placement, which will launch those records as needed. Let's take a look at another card here. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this one. The jobs without coverage card. It's another one of my favorites. So the jobs without coverage card shows you jobs that require activity and attention from recruiters and sales reps, such as submissions, client submissions, and interviews. Benefits of this would include the ability to observe where your team stands on candidate quality, or whether your client is being responsive to submissions. So before we jump into this data, let's take a look at the configuration again. So for this particular card, I want to see any jobs that are without submissions. I also only want to see jobs that are open and maybe just with the status of accepting candidates. And there we go. So now we're looking at jobs added in July of 2021 without submissions. All right, so now we have our job IDs. We also have the companies and contacts associated with those jobs. As we saw with the starts and ends card, I do have the ability to see all the jobs from one fell swoop. And this will take me to the jobs list where once again, I can choose to update the jobs directly here from the jobs list page. Whoops. I do have the option to change their status, add them to a tear sheet, maybe add a submission, etc. Another great example of this, great data to see first and forefront is now I'm showing jobs without submissions, but let's say I want to see jobs without interviews as well. To do that, we can just simply add another card. And I'm going to go to configure card once more. And for this one, this is going to be jobs without interviews. I'll just change the title of this just so I remember exactly what it is. And I'm going to leave my filters open for this one. All right, so now not only am I seeing jobs without submissions, but I'm also seeing jobs without interviews. Just some very brief examples of all the options and the abilities that you have within Bullhorn to run reports, to see certain kind of data and other kind of criteria that would be operational to you, that are important to you for your day-to-day workflow. Lots of different options. So without having to actually go through each individual report and explain what they do, what kind of data is generated on them, same with the dashboard cards, we do have a helpful tool for you. And that is our Bullhorn Community, where you can find information on all of the various reports and all of the dashboard cards. Now, to get to Bullhorn Community, you can simply navigate to the top of your screen next to your username and click Help. I've already got it open here. So after hitting Help, that's going to open up a new tab, and it's going to take me to my Bullhorn Community. From this point, I can search through the Bullhorn ATS, or the Applicant Tracking System. And then I can search for a specific card or a specific report. So for an example, we looked at the sales activity report. So I'm just going to search for that. And typically, depending on what you're search for, it should be towards the very top. So for this example, running the sales activity report is exactly what I'm looking for. And here we go. We have a nice laid out article about the report, what it does, about all those filters that we went over, and even furthermore, about the columns and the rows that we were looking at and where that data is derived from. So where it's generated and how it shows or reflects on that report. All right, and again, if you're not sure of what report you want to look for, let's say you're thinking about generating certain data on a report, but you're just not sure where to start, just search standard reports here in the Bullhorn community. And I'd look out for this article, Understanding Bullhorn Standard Reports. This is a great article to give you full depth knowledge of all of the standard reports that are offered within Bullhorn, what each of them do, maybe even what each of them are specifically tailored for, whether it be a recruiter or a salesperson, or even management of the two. All right, and then same goes, of course, for our dashboard cards. So if I wanted to look at that starts and ends card, I can just simply type in starts and ends, get those closed out here. And here's the information on the starts and ends dashboard card. Once again, it doesn't just give you a brief description. It gives you way more information than that. It tells you how the data is generated, tells you how to set up, and it may even give you a few more helpful hints that I didn't have time to cover. Now, again, like we talked with reporting, if you're not exactly sure which dashboard card to use, just search for dashboard cards. Understanding dashboard cards will take you to a page that shows you all of the various dashboard cards that are offered. Dashboard cards pertaining to certain entities, like we discussed, such as companies, contacts, jobs, etc. All right. Well, that concludes my presentation here on a few of Bullhorn's standard reports, as well as my dashboard. I hope that you found this information useful and that you continue to pursue these and use these options in Bullhorn to really dig and generate that information that you needed to help you out on your day-to-day. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and jump into any questions.
Sure, thanks, Aaron. First question here we have is, are Bullhorn's standard reports customizable?
Okay, thank you for that. So the only customizations for the standard reports are what we saw on the criteria page where you can go through the filters. Otherwise, we do have recommendations for other features such as Canvas or some marketplace partners.
Awesome. And the next question is, can I see my goals within the dashboard cards?
Great question. So you can. So we actually have a card in Bullhorn that is called My Activity. As you can see here, I can't add that because I already have it here. So I'll go ahead and pull it up here. So this allows you to see any of your goals, quotas that needing to be met for a given time frame. Now, of course, this is my test database, so I don't have a lot of information in here, but you do have the ability to see that from my dashboard.
Awesome. The next question is there a way for dashboard cards to be limited to a certain user so they can only see their own information, for example?
Yes, so most of the data that you would see with My Activity is limited to yourself, but there isn't a way to view others' goals and quotas. However, this would be a good feature request. So it is limited to just your specific activity.
Got it. Okay. And the next one here is, does Bullhorn offer any other options for reporting?
Okay, great question. So yeah, like I believe the first question kind of dove into that a little bit with, being able to customize those standard reports that are offered. Bullhorn does offer a great feature called Canvas reporting, which is highly customizable and just a litany, almost unimaginable for me personally, amount of things that you can do as far as creating and standardizing the reports that you want to reflect very specific and detailed information. Again, that's called Canvas. And then, of course, we do have marketplace partners that we work with that also offer various reports, such as Cube 19. So if you have any interests in the marketplace partners that offer reporting options or in Canvas, I would encourage you to reach out to your account manager for more information on that.
Awesome. Thanks for that answer, Aaron. I know we have a number of questions in here that look like they'll warrant a little bit of follow-up individually after the session because we are just about out of time today. Want to be mindful of everyone's busy calendars. So if you asked a question that we didn't get to on this session, we will connect with you via email to further answer your question and provide other resources that may help answer the information you're looking for. So thanks so much, Aaron and Ryan, who is on here answering a lot of your questions. As a reminder, we'll be sharing the webinar recording with all attendees within the next 24 hours. So keep an eye on your email for the recording. And then we'll also follow up via email in the next week with any questions that we didn't get to during the Q&A section. So for any additional training resources, don't forget to log into the Learning Hub through the customer community at help.bullhorn.com. Aaron showed a little bit of what is available in the customer community, but there are tons of resources available. So definitely check that out. And thanks everyone for joining and have a great rest of your day.